were able to overcome technological difficulties and be here. Andy, do we need to read anything about the Governor Newsom's order at this point, or should we just move directly to calling the meeting to order?
Go ahead and call it to order, and then I'll just, when I talk about public comment, I'll talk about it then.
Okay, thanks.
For the pledge and roll call.
Okay. All right. I would like to call this meeting to order. It's 7:30. We'll start out with a pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Eng, would you like to lead us in the pledge tonight?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's move to roll call. Ms. Brewer?
Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Commissioner Martos?
Here.
Commissioner Eng?
Here.
Vice Chair Rebelos? Vice Chair Rebelos?
Nathan? Oh, I think you're on mute, maybe, Ethan. No, you weren't. I'm sorry, we don't have audio for you for some reason, but even though you're not on mute.
I'll just note that he's present.
Okay.
And Chair Israelit.
Present here. All right, thank you so much. We'll move to item 4, approval of minutes for last meeting, January 12th. Did anyone have any corrections or any concerns with the meetings as it stands? Commissioner Lee?
Yes, I just have one. Item 7C, the engineering report.
Okay.
I believe it should be called BIS school safety, not traffic calming. Am I mistaken? I don't think we're doing a traffic calming study. I think we're doing a BIS school safety study.
Mr. Wong, did you?
I'll check on that. I'll
Thank
check
you.
on that. So,
Thank you.
because I think we also called Mercy. Maybe it's the same thing. Traffic calming, because that's what we're essentially doing.
Yeah, I don't think that was BIS though, but you can check it.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to move to approve the minutes with us correcting or rechecking that specific detail, Mr. Wong, or do we have to wait until that's corrected before we can approve them?
You can approve it, and we'll note it.
Okay. Okay. Anyone willing to move that we approve those minutes?
I'll move we approve the minutes with the caveat that if 7C is called BIS school safety training, we make the correction.
Anyone second it?
I'll second.
Great. Okay. Ms. Brewer, should we vote?
Yes, Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Martos?
Aye.
Commissioner Eng?
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebelos?
I dropped from the call, so I don't even know what we're voting on.
Oh, shoot, our meeting minutes.
Oh, aye.
Thank you. Chair Israelit?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Okay, minutes of January 12 are approved. Next, we'll move to item 5, public comments, non-agenda. Mr. Wong, should I read the usual disclaimer, or is there a different one for this last meeting?
Nope, same disclaimer.
Okay, members of the public may speak on any item that is not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future commission agenda may do so as part of the public comment period. The Ralph M. Brown Act prohibits the commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
And through the chair, I mean, this is just for us, but for the record, anyone who wishing to make public comment can email us directly, publiccomment@burlingame.org, and we can try to read it. Roughly 3 minutes or between 250, 300 words. or in the other way in the Zoom webinars to raise your hand and we will unmute you and you'll be allowed to speak. Also like to point out for the commissioners that this is going to be our last meeting virtually. Next meeting in March, we will be in chambers. Again, knock on wood, that's what I think I told you a little while ago, but the governor's suspension of the Brown Act, I believe it's opened up starting March, and Mayor Brownrigg also indicated that they didn't sign another resolution extending it. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like we're going live in March. The public will be able to be hybrid, and it'll be a new experience for all of you as well as us.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. I think I see only 10 participants, so it is all of us. I don't see members of the public. Ms. Brewer, is there anything you received by email?
I have no public comments via email today.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll then close public comment and move on to item number 6.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question before you move on?
Yes.
Through the chair, Mr. Wong, so how will the public interact with us in chambers via Zoom or via, virtually?
And this is through maybe Mr. Spansel and I, but each of you will have your own monitor. I think it'll look similar to this. And so you'll be able to see some of this going on. So that's what it's different, because what you see, the camera sees, will be different than what the folks online see. So we have to balance that. So a combination of you're being filmed as well as being on Zoom.
Maybe come a couple minutes early to get accustomed to the new
I
setup.
think we should be there much earlier. We'll send out a notice. I think the city clerk has requested that we get online much earlier. Yeah, just so we don't have something similar to what happened to us this afternoon or this evening.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
members of the public are able to come in person as well. So that is why it's called the hybrid. If anyone wants to come in person, like the 2019 days, they're welcome to do that as well. There is just a hybrid option to make sure that we allow others who are not able to come into City Hall to interact as well.
That's good.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for clarifying that. Now we'll move to item number 6, which are the discussion action items. 6A is the teaspoon subcommittee discussion. This is what we started to bring up at last meeting. Today, what we will do is look at our existing subcommittees, and we need to go through each one and see if it fulfills the ad hoc requirements, which means that it has either a limited time frame that it's active, less than a year, that it has specific and actionable items on the agenda or projects that it can accomplish, and I think that's the main thing. Am I forgetting anything, Attorney Spansale?
Nope, that's correct. We want to make sure that there's a defined scope or a defined time limit for those subcommittees if we can.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Wong, do you have something we can look at that shows the current subcommittees?
I do. Let me call that right up.
And Madam Chair, as we do go through this, we want to make sure that before we take any votes or take any action, that we do open this up for public comment to make sure that any members of the public can say anything they would like to about the formations of these subcommittees.
Thank you. Should I open it to public comment at this point before our discussion?
It is completely up to you. We just want to make sure that the members of the public have a chance to speak and that you have a chance to consider their comments before taking any action.
Okay, I would like to then open it to public comment now before we delve into our discussion. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this agenda item? Ms. Brewer?
I see one member of the public in attendance, and his hand is not raised.
All right, then I will close public comment on this agenda item, and we will move forward with our commission discussion. So these are the existent subcommittees. And what I'd like to do is go through each one and discuss if we feel that it is still one that we should keep and is relevant. Is it one that is defunct and has already accomplished its goal? And, we should release it and end it. And what we'll do is I will let any commissioner who wants to speak about their thoughts on this. We can each have a chance to speak. Oh, cool. And then at the end, we will, if someone could please move whether we will keep this as an ad hoc committee or whether we will end it. And then we will take a vote as a commission. So I'm looking at a map now. Mr. Wong, can we see the list?
Oh, the list.
The list is not showing any longer. It's Google Maps. Coyote Point, sort of around that area.
Okay,
I think
let's try that
it's the wrong
again.
screen. It was up at first.
Yeah, I don't know why it switched off. Huh.
I mean, we could all refer to everyone, if you have the agenda.
There it is.
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, great. So we're looking at the first committee is the Burlingame Avenue Safety and Access Committee. Each commissioner, if you want to speak, please keep it relatively brief because we have several to get through. But I would like you to keep in mind, the duration of the existence of the committee and an actionable item that can be accomplished. It has to be something relatively narrow and specific, as opposed to we just want to, make the whole area safer. We want something that's, you can really actually work on and focus on. Commissioner Lee, would you like to speak?
Yes, what I'm not aware of is where the city staff is on the new crosswalks and everything we had discussed about 6 months ago on Burlingame Avenue. So that would be a big part of this committee, but they had talked about putting in stop lines and changing the configurations of the crosswalks along Burlingame Avenue, which really piqued my interest to this subcommittee, but we have been given no updates on that, what's going on Burlingame Avenue. So I'd kind of like to leave this open until we hear from staff what's going on, or Mr. Wong, if you could update us on the Burlingame Avenue crosswalk improvements.
Well, we're not going to, we can't really get into discussing what the actual project is because of the way the agenda is set up. But so I understand that your concern is crosswalks and specifically, which is, something that can be worked on. And Commissioner Eng, you're also on this subcommittee. Can we hear from you about if you feel that this is still needed and what specific actionable project is of concern to you?
Yeah, so I wasn't part of the committee when it was formed. I remember when former Chair Martos needed to join a different subcommittee. So I guess it was never really clear to me what the end goal was, what was the actual thing that needed to get accomplished in order for the subcommittee to be completed. And it seems like it's kind of a moving target at this point. So, but at the same time, if Commissioner Lee feels like the crosswalks and getting that finalized is the end point, then I'm fine with keeping this open until we get to that point.
Okay. Perhaps we could change the subcommittee in order to make it compliant with the Brown Act and have it be more specific. It could be, Burlingame Avenue Crosswalks project. And if that seems like that would be something you would still both like to continue working on, we could have a motion that we specifically define what this subcommittee does, and then we could all vote on it.
Mr. Wong, is the city still working on that project?
It was originally one of the quick builds, but we do have some, we're looking into it. I'm not sure if it's defined in a plan, but I'll have to go back and check on this one. So
What do you think a good name would be for it to encompass what the city is working on?
again, Burlingame Avenue pedestrian improvements.
Okay, that sounds good.
I think it needs to be a little more specific than that.
Downtown,
I'm sorry, I think
maybe downtown pedestrian improvements to specify Burlingame Avenue within the confine.
I think it would, to be truly, a specific project, it should probably be Burlingame Avenue pedestrian crosswalks, if that's what we're talking about working on. We should define it as such.
I think that's a little too narrow. I think, what about just pedestrian improvements? Like Mr. Wong suggested.
Uh,
All about, we don't know. It could be bollards. We don't know. It could be countdown to cross. We don't know.
I'm sorry, what was your last, it could be what?
Countdown signals to
Oh,
cross.
countdown, I'm sorry, I thought you said come down.
No, countdown.
Or how about
We
then,
don't know what those improvements might be, so I don't want to be so narrow as to say only crosswalks.
I get it, how about Burlingame Avenue crossings, and have it be more broad that way? And crossings all it entails, whether it's rapid flashing beacons or, marking stop lines, all of that.
And I think as long as we have a defined kind of end state, whether it be a report out by the subcommittee to the teaspoon on their recommendations, or just a certain time limit, if that doesn't happen, I think that is okay. So we just need to make sure that we define it. I think all the scopes that have been defined are generally, they're a great improvement and are going to help us a lot narrow that focus. But having the objective or the time limit is also going to help us do that, because that, at least we know that at some point those recommendations will be made. So I think
Okay,
through the chair, and I will leave it to you, but I think what is being suggested sounds like it can work in a few different ways.
okay. So maybe we can call it Burlingame Avenue pedestrian safety and have it encompass more than just crosswalks. Okay, great. All right. Well, it sounds like it isn't completed yet. There is work to be done. Commissioner Lee, would you like to move that we rename and continue this subcommittee, and maybe pick a time frame that you think that is reasonable, that you'd be able to accomplish what you'd like to?
Mr. Wong, how's the city staff coming along on this project? So we could kind of give it an end date, 8 months? What do you think?
I'll have to check with them. I don't have an update at this moment. But again, we revisit these each year, right? So if you let it go through the duration of Chair Israelit's term, and then next year we can revisit it just like as we are doing it now. So.
Okay, thank you.
And we can also certainly add a recommendation point. Maybe in 6 months, we come back and we discuss how it's going and where we are. And I think that'll help narrow the scope as well. So just something, we don't need to build it into a motion, but just to put on the record that we are going to continually be looking at where we are and the recommendations that might be made by the subcommittee who are working with staff on this project.
Okay, all right, that sounds great. Anybody want to move so we could vote?
What do they call it? Burlingame, I move we approve Burlingame Avenue pedestrian safety subcommittee.
I second that. Okay, so now Ms. Brewer, can you take us through a vote?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Martos,
Nay.
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebelos.
Aye.
Chair Israelit.
Aye. Okay, then that vote carries, and we will have a newly named subcommittee to look at that specific aspect of Burlingame Ave. Next, we're community. Okay. I'm sorry. Attorney Spansale, could you help me out with this one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Burlingame Ave, or sorry, the Community BPAC Subcommittee, I think we talked a little bit about this last time. It is something that's pretty wide ranging and has no true end date. So obviously we know that we do have a great Community BPAC out there who goes under a similar name, who's obviously not truly the subcommittee, because the subcommittee is only the two, Commissioner Rebellos and Commissioner Lee, who are sitting as the city subcommittee for the BPAC subcommittee. So what we're trying to do here is, again, similar to what we did on the Burlingame Avenue Safety and Access, we're trying to narrow the scope. So there is no issue with having a subcommittee that looks into specific aspects of bicycle and pedestrian issues, maybe even issues that are brought up by the Community BPAC, the community group. But we do need to narrow those scopes, and we need to make sure that each subcommittee that is created is looking at a certain project, or it has a defined scope or a defined time limit that they can come back and report out to the larger commission to make any sort of actionable recommendation to the city council. So here, there are a few different options. Obviously, the commission did not want to continue the subcommittee. They could disband it. If the commission wanted to narrow a scope to a particular project, much like they did in the Burlingame Avenue Safety and Access, that would be another way to go. But unfortunately, we just can't have a ad hoc subcommittee that is not agendized or subject to the Brown Act that encompasses such a wide-ranging and continuing sort of project. So I'll give it back to you, Leonard Israelit. I'm here to answer any questions. I know this is a little bit of a change. I want to make sure that everyone out there who is watching does know that this isn't having any institutional effect on the community BPAC. They operate outside of the city. They are a community group. So we welcome them to, of course, continue exactly as they have been. This is just how we treat the subcommittee of our own city employees.
Thank you. Okay, so I know, we do have participation with BPAC in our meetings with, hearing from them and a report and update from them with devoted time for any community group. This subcommittee as it stands is, I think, not compliant with the Brown Act. My recommendation would be for us to no longer have it, but to restart a subcommittee if there's like a specific project or an aspect that we want to work on that's about bicycle and pedestrian safety. And keep in mind that subcommittees is not just today, and then you have to wait for a year to restart a new subcommittee. Subcommittees can be added at any point during the year if needed. And we've done that before. So I'm just concerned right now that this particular subcommittee is not Brown Act compliant and would need to be agendized and, public meetings and all that entails. When we are getting feedback from BPAC directly, and this subcommittee is just a little too nebulous. Any other input from other commissioners? Commissioner Lee.
Thinking we should rename it so that it is less broad, and that it would be that we would be. All right, I need help with the name. To work with the, what is it called? The Burlingame Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan that was approved in 2020, to work with BPAC on how to prioritize the list and to activate the list. All right, just study quarter prioritization for the bicycle pedestrian pedestrian plan that Burlingame has enacted and adopted as their guideline on how to do, what order to do pedestrian improvements. So it might be about prioritizing the pedestrian and bicycle plan that is our guideline for our grant and improvement suggestions. So I'd be happy to change it to that. And we could work on it for a year. A lot of our grants and our prioritization of projects that we should be looking at are listed in this, since we are the safety commission. So I guess it's just to prioritize the bicycle pedestrian plan
Okay.
and activate it.
That's, I don't know, is that too big of a project? I mean, that's a massive document. I don't know if that would be too large of a project to be accomplished by an ad hoc committee. Again, I'm going to have to defer to our attorney. You know, it's just, this is all new, obviously, and that's why we're looking at this.
Sorry, did you have something, Commissioner Rebel or Vice Chair Rebellis?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
No, I didn't raise my hand. But I figured maybe, I thought maybe, Scott, you were calling on me because
No,
on that.
no, I mean, of course, we want to hear what everyone has to say. I thought I heard someone say something. It looks like Mr. Wong's raising his hand. Commissioner Rebellis, did you? And I apologize. I could have sworn I saw your screen light up, and that's why I wanted to make sure you had a chance to speak. But if you don't want to, it looks like Mr. Wong wanted to provide some input.
You know,
I may choose to speak later, but I don't have anything right now. I would kind of want to hear what everyone else has to say.
My apologies, Commissioner Rebels. Just wanted to point out that the 2020 Bike Ped Master Plan does, the projects are put in a priority level. But the bicycle projects as well as the pedestrian projects have their own priority scoring that we went through the community. So I'm just trying to define what additionally a new subcommittee would do in terms of that. Just a question. It seems like a redundancy.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. I thought that, I mean, it's been some time, obviously, since we received that, but I did think that those projects were already prioritized. And of course, the decision on which projects to move forward with does not sit with the Teaspoon Commission. It is more, this was a document that was requested and generated for the City Council, who holds the purse strings and makes budget decisions. So that's my concern about having that particular, like prioritizing the bicycle pedestrian master plan. Is I'm not sure that is something that is something that Teaspoon should be doing, since it already is prioritized, and since we are not the ones who decide which projects move forward and are budgeted. Commissioner Martos, do you have anything to say? I can't see. Sorry, I can't see you because you dropped to the bottom of my. Oh, there you are.
No, I think Commissioner Rebellis or Vice Chair Rebellis has his hand up.
Oh, great. Sorry, you guys. None of the way I might currently have it, I can only see one strip of you at a time. Commissioner Rebellis.
So I have a question, actually. So I understand that if we disband, quote unquote, this community BPAC, that it actually doesn't affect community BPAC because it is a citizen committee at its root. So my question, though, is if it's a community BPAC and it's not a ad hoc subcommittee, I realize that I could still attend their meetings. Commissioner Lee could attend their meetings. Would we be limited to two commissioners attending the meeting?
And
Now,
I can speak to that.
I know,
Oh, sorry.
I know part of the answer is absolutely if we are talking, but when if we are just attending?
Well, I'm glad that makes me very happy, Vice Chair Rebellis. It sounds like our trainings are going well. I think, no, there is no issue. It's just, it may prove difficult to have a quorum of the commissioners attend the meetings and not be asked their opinions. If the mental fortitude is there and 5 commissioners were able to sit on the sidelines and make sure that they gave no input, that is not a violation of the Brown Act. So you could still go there. We also, and I think Chair Isler brought this up a little bit in passing earlier, we're going to make sure that the community BPAC does have a chance to speak at every Teaspoon meeting as well. I know they generally spoke around this time. We're going to make sure that during a community group session, they always have a chance to speak as well. So that is something that I want to make sure is broadcast, that this is not trying to silence the community BPAC in any way. It's just a little bit different of the agenda to make sure that we're complying with the Brown Act. But hopefully that answered your question a little bit, Vice Chair Rebellis, but I'm happy to go into a little more detail. But yes, you could certainly still attend those meetings. You would just not be able to provide your input at those meetings. You would have to be a sideline.
And
I
observe.
appreciate that clarification. So what I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around here is because the reason I asked that question was because if it's not an ad hoc subcommittee and we just 3 of us just randomly happen to show up, then that in and of itself would not cause a problem unless all of us spoke or each of us spoke our opinion. So that I understand. I find myself in a little bit of a quandary here because I was not an original committee member of the BPAC. I came in and the committee already existed and I replaced someone else. So I don't know the initial, official reason that BPAC formed in the first place. I don't know what the goal was and what the reason was. So I can't speak to what the goal of BPAC is, but I'm kind of comfortable with all of that because, and maybe thinking maybe there we can kind of disband it, the subcommittee for now, because if we do decide, oh, wait a minute, we need to have a subcommittee around bicycle pedestrian advisory or something similar to that.
Vice Chair Rebellis, you're cutting out a little bit.
Bring it back and form. I'm kind of okay. So that's basically all I have to say for the moment.
All right.
And just to make sure, sorry, Chair Oslett. So you were saying that you would be okay because you would essentially you'd have the ability to come back later and do a smaller subset or a narrower scope of a BPAC issue. I just want to make sure I'm capturing it because you cut out a little bit there, and I want to make sure we know what you're saying. Okay,
that's what I said. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think we might want to move forward on a decision rather than debating this or discussing this. I think the salient points have pretty much been discussed and we should make a decision. Commissioner Lee, I see your hand up. Do you have another brief comment to make or?
Yes, I do. My question was for Mr. Spansale. I don't, the BPAC used to have a staff person coming from the city and sit in at the BPAC every other month. And it was extremely helpful to have that. And now they don't have that anymore. And they used to have a place on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting Mostly so that their chairperson or the speaker could go to bed early, because they speak for like 2 minutes and then they go home. But now, like for tonight's agenda, for example, there is no place on the agenda for BPAC. So BPAC was formed by the city to create the bicycle pedestrian plan because we couldn't compete, I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wong, we couldn't compete for grants if we didn't have one and didn't have a BPAC because do it. So anyway, my point is they are not on the agenda and they used to be. So if Mr. Spansel thinks we could put them back on the agenda, then I'm fine with disbanding the committee. Thank you.
Commissioner, they are actually on the agenda. There is a new agenda spot for community groups to speak, and that of course would include BPAC, who's always been active community group. So they would still have dedicated time to speak at every meeting. But, you know, sort of segueing, this is not, I don't want to discuss the role and importance of BPAC tonight. This is really, I want to focus on this particular subcommittee as opposed to larger BPAC issues. Let's just focus on the subcommittee and not that aspect of BPAC. So at this point, Attorney Spansel.
Sorry, I did just want to say one thing because I can, if I was Commissioner Lee, I might be a little confused as well. The community group item is not on this agenda. It will be on the next agenda.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes, so we are,
that.
staff intends to create a new community group item where any community group in the city who would like to speak to the Teaspoon can have a designated portion to do so. That did not make it here. We assume that the BPAC would like to make those, so we're going to include that in, but it is of course welcome to any community group who'd like to speak and provide their input and guidance to the Teaspoon as well. So wanted to make sure you knew, because I know you're probably looking for it right now. And my apologies, it's not there. It will be there at the next meeting.
Thank you so much. I know we discussed adding that and making sure that there was a time for BPAC to speak. And I thought I saw it, and I guess that's for next time. So, well, let's wind up this discussion. We've spent a little bit of time on this, and we still have several others to go through. So, does anyone want to make a motion as to whether this subcommittee is disbanded at this time, or continued as a standing committee with all the extra regulation and effort that takes? Let's see, I don't see anyone raising their hand to make a motion. I'll make the motion if is that allowed for a chair to make a motion? Okay. We lost the screen. But I move that the current BPAC subcommittee, as Teaspoon has it, is disbanded because it is too broad and has no endpoint or specific goal, the actionable project. I guess that's it. Does anyone second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Let's bring that to a vote then, Ms. Brewer.
Commissioner Lee,
Abstain?
Commissioner Martos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebelos,
Aye.
Chair Israelit.
Aye. Okay, so we will then eliminate that subcommittee for now. It's, again, let me just be clear. It's not that these are not important issues that the subcommittee was looking at. It just needs to be more defined to be a true subcommittee ad hoc. Okay, the next subcommittee is the BIS safety audit. Since I'm on that committee, we are still active. We're trying to wind things up. We're really fighting to wind things up, but we're not there yet. And we do have our specific goal is to put in action the interventions that were brought about by the consultants that we worked with, but also modified by Michael Sy and Commissioner Eng and myself. We did have a meeting set up with the school district, but they had to cancel at the last minute, and we hope to continue to meet with them and bring this to fruition by the end of the school year. So that is sort of our defined goal and our defined project. Commissioner Eng, do you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I think that's fair.
Okay. Do you want to, anyone want to make a motion regarding this subcommittee? You guys are a very quiet bunch tonight.
I move we approve the continuation of BIS Safety Audit Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Do I have a second?
A second.
I can, yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much.
So Chair, before you go to a vote, can I ask a question?
Of course.
So specifically, what's left for this committee to work on? They've been working a long time. A lot of work's been done. Does engineering still need the committee to study things to bring this to closure?
I can respond to that from our endpoint. Again, I'm so sorry, I can't see everybody all at once, but we need to present it to the school and see if there are any modifications that they need to make. So the project is not set in stone yet, and we have to get the school district's buy-in, but we've had trouble. We've had a delay meeting with them. Once they agree and approved, and we all are on the same page, we're going to bring it back to Teaspoon. And at that point, I'm sure the subcommittee could be disbanded because we will be presenting it to you all, and that would be our goal. Is that okay, Commissioner Martos? Are we ready to vote, or would you like?
Yeah, no, that's good. I just wanted to be clear what was left to study and to bring resolution to close this study out.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Yep.
you. All right, Ms. Brewer, could you please bring us to a vote?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Martos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebellos,
Aye.
Chair Israelit.
Aye. Okay, the BIS Safety Audit Subcommittee will continue. We can move next to the Mercy School traffic calming. I'm going to let actually Mr. Wong has been in communication with Mercy, and why don't I let you speak, Mr. Wong, about where we are, if we're winding this up, or if you still need active input from a subcommittee of us teaspooners.
Through the chair, just briefly, staff's working on putting in improvements, and we've managed to contact the school, Mercy School, and we'll work with them. And we are working on the more infrastructure parts of it that's being combined with another project, so we can try to get them in sooner. So the improvements are underway, literally. So it's to your discretion, yours and Commissioner Martos.
Thank you. Commissioner Martos, can I hear from you since you are my co-commissioner on this?
Sure. I think a lot of good work was done. We studied a lot of aspects of that traffic calming in the area, made a lot of recommendations. Now it's to implement, and that's up to engineering to implement. I think we've prioritized. It's been brought back to Teaspoon to prioritize. From my viewpoint, I think the subcommittee is done, or the committee is done. It can be reconvened or reestablished in the future if we want to study something else. But it's my opinion that we've finished our job and we turned it over to engineering to do the implementation.
Thank you. And a fine job we did. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion about keeping or disbanding this subcommittee?
So I'll make the motion that we disband the Mercy School Traffic Calming Committee.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Ms. Brewer, can you bring us to a vote, please?
Commissioner Lee?
Did we say me?
Yes.
Okay, aye.
Commissioner Martos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ing?
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebelos?
Aye.
Chair Israelit?
Aye. Okay, we can disband the Mercy School Subcommittee. Let's move on to the last one on the list right now is the Highway 101 Corridor Connectivity Subcommittee. This is our newest subcommittee and has a very, very broad geographic coverage area, but also I think I'm not sure if there are any specific defined projects. So I'm going to let the two commissioners on this subcommittee speak about their perceptions of it, and then we can talk about that some more. Commissioner Rebelos.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Okay, so this one is near and dear to me. It was originally a concept I actually mentioned when I was interviewed to be a PSP commissioner. And I would suggest, first of all, that we change the name so that it's more obvious. Looking back now, I realize this name doesn't really express what the subcommittee is for. So I would change the name to the Highway 101 Corridor Bicycle and Pedestrian Connectivity Committee. And the objective of it is to
I think
look
Commissioner Vice Chair Rebelos,
for-
you're freezing. Shoot.
Potential ways. Did I cut out?
Yeah, I'm sorry you
Can
did.
Okay.
You said you
So
we heard that you wanted to rename it to the Bicycle Pedestrian 101 Connectivity, and then you cut out a little bit. If you could.
well, yeah. So okay. So I was just going to say, and the objective is to identify potential routes or improvements to make better bicycle and pedestrian connections across the 101 freeway from one side of the city to the other. And I would be comfortable giving that a 6-month life and saying at the end of 6 months, we will come back with a report and submit that report and probably disband the committee at that point.
Okay, and can I clarify? I'm asking a question. So you are talking about improving east-west connections. Like, if we could even define it more specifically, are you looking at improving east-west connections from, let's say, Rollins to
No.
airport? I mean, could you define it
Well,
a little bit more specifically or clearly so that
okay. Well, I thought that was pretty clear. From one side of the freeway to the other, along that corridor. So, from the north end of Burlingame at Millbrae, all the way down to the south end of Burlingame at San Mateo, any opportunity to improve connecting the two sides of the city, I think is I hope that's clear.
okay, no, I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to be absolutely sure. Attorney Spansale.
Just obviously it's at the will of the majority of the commission, but having a defined scope like that is, I think, an acceptable Brown Act ad hoc subcommittee if the commission wanted to go forward with that. It could also, of course, turn into some ideas that might even lead to further subcommittees once it disbands. So there's no issue as long as we do have that defined report out period. And I think Vice Chair Rebellos put a 6-month gap on it. I mean, obviously, if it goes a little longer, I think that's fine as well. We just want to make sure it doesn't continually move on because a new idea lengthens it. So we want to make sure that we do cap it at a certain point. But just wanted to provide that input in case it was, because we have normally been narrowing the scope more, but I think that this has such a narrow time that it also will hit the Brown Act's requirements. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're invaluable tonight. Okay. Great. In that case, thank you, Vice Chair Rebellos, for sort of, more clarifying your objective for me, especially. Do I have any motions for this subcommittee? Come on, guys.
Commissioner Rebels, you want to put it forward?
Motion to change. Yeah, I would make the motion to change it to the Highway 101 Corridor Bicycle and Pedestrian Connectivity Committee, subcommittee. And it would have a lifespan of 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, we would present a report of what we discovered.
Perfect.
Of our ideas.
What a lovely motion. Anyone second that?
I'll second.
I'm going to let Commissioner Eng be the second since he has.
Of course.
All right. Ms. Brewer, can you bring us to a vote?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Martos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebellos,
Aye.
Chair Israelit.
Aye. Great. Okay, we will keep that one with a defined term and a new name. Were there any suggestions for new subcommittees this evening? Okay. Again, that doesn't mean that they can never occur. It's just we're just cleaning house tonight and starting with a fresh clean slate. All right, let's, I think that was great and very productive. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is 6B, the El Camino Real Task Force member selection. Mr. Wong, would you like to take us through this?
Sure. Thank you. Chair Israelit. Staff report details kind of the process, but back in 2016, when the El Camino Real Renewal Project was first began, Caltrans recommended that we establish an MOU between them and the city, as well as include a task force. That task force had two components: a public component, as well as a technical component, which would be staff and Caltrans, city staff and Caltrans staff. The public component was made up of members of various commissions within the city, as well as other members that had a vested interest. The task force has done quite a bit of work through it to get you where some of you were tonight at the tree workshop. So a lot of the work's been done. However, since the task force even last met, there was a traffic safety parking commissioner on there. And then ever since then, things have changed. Some of those members have left, so there's a vacancy. And per the MOU, we need to once again fill that vacancy in case some other work comes up with the project. So with that, staff recommends that we fill that position once again. So that's kind of the gist of it. If you have any questions, please let me know. But that's what we're seeking tonight, to fill that vacancy.
I have a question. What is the responsibility and how many meetings are we talking and length of time and all that?
At the time it was, and it's less now, it's going to be, it was like a meeting a quarter. So for a year at the time. But again, since the Commissioner Wander, who was the last member who was on there. Since he's been gone and since your meeting tonight, they have not met. They did the bulk of the work. This is just more of, in case there's additional work, they'd like to be able to reconvene the task force. So I mean, I think that was the max, but it could change, but that's roughly what the commitment was at that time. That nothing's been established for it moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. I had, when Commissioner Launder left the Teaspoon, I had offered to be his replacement at the time. But, you know, Mr. Wong had said there's really no need because there wasn't anything going on for a while. I'm willing to take that role. I've been to almost all of the meetings that they've held. In fact, that's why I moved this meeting to 7:30 this evening, so that anyone who wanted to attend the El Camino Real meeting with Caltrans at the rec center could. So if no one else is particularly dying to do this or is interested, since I don't have enough to do, I'm willing to be on that task force. But if anyone else is, you know, interested, please speak up. All right, Mr. Wong, looks like you have a volunteer. Great.
One,
Okay.
thank you. I will let our director know, and as well as our technical member, which is our deputy director, Mr. Morimoto, and I think I can arrange a meeting just to update you on some of the task force items if you need to. So I'll make that option available to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll move on to item 6C. This is about Teaspoon grant letters of support. Mr. Wong, want to go ahead and give us the background on this? And
sure. Just I think the last grant cycle, we had a couple issues come up, and we just want to clarify the process moving forward, seeking a letter of support from the Traffic Safety and Parking Commission. What we're putting forth are two options. One option is, I believe in staff report called option A, which is that the commission delegate the authority to the chair to draft a letter of support, provided that the projects are within, again, we're talking the bike pedestrian grant projects that we apply for, that those projects are listed in the bike ped master plan that was approved. The other option is to, what we've normally done when we try to, is to have a meeting, show you or present the projects that we're going to move forward with, and then ask for feedback or, again, support, letter of support from the commission. And then at that point, the chair can draft a letter of support at that time, or have a designee. With that, there's a chance if we do that and we miss the cycle, it may impact the grant, depending on the particular grant, if how critical the letter of support is. So there's a time, because our cycles, as well as the cycles of the grants, they don't always coincide, and that's sometimes where the hang up is. And I think that's most of the feedback. If there's questions, we can take some questions.
and anyone, if you have questions, please raise your hand. Chair, retired Chair Martos.
Through the chair, a question for Mr. Spansel or Mr. Wong. If we have to convene a special meeting to review a grant application, what advance notice do we need to make public in order to convene that meeting? Is there any advance notice to the public?
And
Do you want me to answer that, Andy?
I believe
there-
it's 48, but I'll let you confirm.
We're at least gonna have to give 48 hours. We typically give 72 for normal special meeting or for normal agenda meetings, but this would be a special meeting. So it could be done in 48 hours notice, but it would have to go through the same noticing requirements that you normally see. So I mean, this would be in person now, if it happened in March. So we'd be meeting in person for that meeting. It would not be a special meeting on Zoom. It would also be noticed, the proper ways that we do for these as well, through the website, through everything else. And of course, members of the public would be able to attend and give their input as well. Madam Chair, you're talking, but you're on mute.
Sorry, Commissioner Rebelos, I saw your hand up, but now it's down, but did you want to speak?
No, I'd like to hear some more comments. Commissioner Martos actually asked the exact question I had written down to ask. So
All right, thank you.
I appreciate
Commissioner-
that.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Hi, yes. So am I to understand that, and perhaps our attorney could tell us, it seems like option A occurred without this approval over the last grant cycle that went through. That Teaspoon did not have a discussion on any of the grants, and yet a letter was sent out in support of 3 grants. 2 of the 3 grants were not on the bicycle pedestrian plan. Not that that matters. So did that occur, that a letter was sent out with Teaspoon's name on it, and yet it was not authorized by Teaspoon for a grant project?
Through the
Andy,
chair.
did you want to
Yeah,
respond?
that did occur. That process did occur.
Okay, so I think that it's very easy to get us together in 48 hours or 72 or a 1-week notice. When that occurred, yes, it was August, yes, it was September, but we could have found a date where we could have had a 3-person quorum to send out to do a letter. So I think I vote for option B, that all letters of anything coming with the Teaspoon name should be a majority of Teaspoon members agreeing to it.
Thank you.
And sorry, Chair Islet, I did want to clarify, Mr. Wong, on that, I just want to make sure, since we're talking about it out in public, we retracted that letter from the grant, right? Once we've realized
That is
that
correct.
issue. So while it was collected, I think that's why we're here today, to make sure that the process is correct. But for those out there, that was recalled, and the granting agency was told that we wanted to withdraw that letter to make sure that the entire will of the commission was not done at that time. So just for clarification.
Okay, so yeah, I just think that it's just, we should have it that a majority speaks for the Teaspoon, not any one person. Thank you.
Commissioner Rebelos, or Vice Chair Rebelos, I'm gonna call on you in just a second, but I actually wanted to ask a question too. Mr. Wong, how is it often, or how often does it come up where there's a grant that we need to move very quickly on and or lose it? Like, is there a chance that by convening a special meeting with the Teaspoon that we will get our act together too late and lose out on the grant entirely?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's actually, of the grants that we've applied for bike ped improvements, only one of them specifically requires a letter of support from the Traffic Safety and Parking Commission. The other ones do not specifically require it. You do include them, we do include them, and you can include them, but they are not specifically asked for. So if that kind of clarifies some of it. So it does occur, but it's not occurring every opportunity that we put forth.
Okay, so what you're saying is that sometimes a letter from the Teaspoon is required, sometimes it's not. But how much time do you have when you realize that you would like to have a letter from Teaspoon until the deadline for the grant? Like, would we have time for the most part to convene a special meeting, or is that sometimes going to mean that we're going to miss out on an opportunity and get no money?
So again, there's one grant that specific situation might occur where if we don't submit one with it, we may lose out. The other ones we could submit without a letter of support from the commission.
Okay.
We've worked with the fund granting agency to see what the strongest candidates were. So
Okay.
does that better answer your question?
Yeah, I'm going to let Attorney Spansale speak again. Commissioner Rebels or Vice Chair Rebels, I have not forgotten about you, but
And I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure that we knew, we haven't opened this to public comment yet. It looks like we do have someone in the public comment arena. We want to make sure before we're discussing it in too much detail that we do go to our members of the public. They're able to say their piece, so you can consider it while we discuss.
I'm so sorry about that. I thought I did that at the beginning of the discussion action items, and I didn't realize I was supposed to do it for each of the items under that. I'm still getting used to this new format. Okay, so before I have the commissioners, you're more than welcome to continue the discussion, but let's hear from a member of the public prior, since that I overlooked that. Ms. Brewer, is there someone that, Mr. Manito. Mr. Velasquez, please go ahead, and you have 3 minutes to give your public comment.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. The staple, like Andrew was saying, Mr. Wong was saying, the staple grants that the city has applied for have historically come on a regular cycle. The list of the projects or the grants are actually listed on page 218 of the Bike Ped plan. The most successful grant that the city's gotten is the Measure A, Ped Bike Call for Projects that the TA issues. That comes every 2 years, and the call is usually between September and December. And before that call's even issued, the county even issues a pre-call to let the city agencies know that it's coming. The other grant that the city has gotten is the TDA grant. That's the Transportation Development Act. That also comes around every 2 to 3 years. And there was a call in 2019. There was a call in 2021. So there could be a call coming again this year. I'm actually waiting to hear back from MTC to confirm that that's happening. So these grants that we get are fairly predictable, and the city's been fairly successful about getting them. But it's hard to understand why it always comes down to a rush to select projects when maybe some simple advanced planning could be done. I know there are always going to be like one-off grants, to be sure, but those are really the rare exception to these two. And what I can say is frustrating is that 3 to 4 months before the grant deadline, I typically bring up the grant opportunity at BPAC so that there's an intensive discussion that happens. We talk about candidates, talk about like what's the best fit for that grant. We even talk about like who to get letters of support from. And you might even remember that there was one time the city was trying to do a grant submittal to put in like a jogging path around Ray Park and claimed that to be like a ped bike commuter grant that was eligible, which of course wasn't true. And this last grant cycle, I believe we were waiting for the city to engage and ask for input. I think we've selected a couple of different candidates, but clearly that was not what the city was intending. So I think what I would just encourage TSPC to do is to try to get a table of the historical previous grants the city has gotten by source, by ped or bike mode, by amount, and by date of the call was issued. And maybe even include the grants that were applied for but not awarded. That way you get an idea of when things are coming and when the ones that were successful were done. And finally, what I'll just say is that I've talked to the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, the TA staff who manages the Measure A grant and MTC, and they do truly value letters of support from actual bicycle riders and pedestrians, whether or not they have a title or are officially recognized by the city. In fact, the SVBC indicated they will not write letters of support for projects without checking with local ped bike groups as a lesson learned from the last grant cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Vice Chair Rebelos, it's your moment in the sun. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No worries. No worries. So thank you. I think, the role of the TSPC is basically to represent the community at large and to be that voice. And I think that the intent is to affect public policy And I think that the public expects full transparency. So I think having those in mind, I think that it's worth it for us to convene for a special meeting if needed. And I just think that, yeah, I think I would, I'll wait for someone else for everyone else to speak if they want to, but so I'll withhold from making a motion, but I think that we should have to all discuss it, or, you know, have a quorum, discuss it at least, and make a decision before. And just to be clear, just so I don't want anyone to take it personal, because I would say this if I was the chair. So I wouldn't be comfortable signing off on something, because the public perception is that the entire commission has signed off on something, when in fact it has not. And that's my concern
Thank
with
you.
option A.
Thank you. Mr. Wong?
Thank you. I'd like to point out to Mr. Valesco's point that, yes, moving forward, I believe that when the call for projects come out, we will let the commission know that that grant cycle is coming online, as well as interested members of the community. And specifically in this case, the BPAC will go ahead and let them know that the call is open and we're seeking feedback. In the meantime, we will meet with the grant funding agencies with our bike ped master plan and kind of go through it to see which are they feel are the strongest candidates for this particular grant, fits their criteria and what they think. And then we can come back with that project. And again, that's when we would ask at that time, when we've developed the project, bring it to the commission and ask for the letter of support. So in the meantime, everyone's got some time to digest. And if they feel, any member of the community feels like they want to provide a letter of support, they can at that point. So moving forward, I think that's that's the approach we're looking at.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? All right.
I just wanted to say, I agree with Commissioner Rebelos that we need to be the voice of the people and represent the people and do it in an open manner, a transparent manner, and anything that comes from Teaspoon should be a majority of our members voting on it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Does anyone want to make a motion since we've discussed this? I think, you know, looking at the staff, well, you can make a motion. It doesn't have to be A or B. You can just put it in your own words.
I'll make the motion. I move that we accept option B for grant applications.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Martos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rebelos,
Aye.
Chair Israelit.
Aye. Okay. Now we have a new policy moving forward, and let's move on to, you know, close this item, and we'll move on to the agenda information items. Number 7, is there any public comment related to informational items?
I don't see anyone in attendance any longer, and I don't have any emails at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will move on to community BPAC update. Do we have any? Well, we don't have anyone from BPAC here today. Okay, let's close that item and move to number C, letter C, engineering division reports. I assume that will be Mr. Tsai taking us through that today.
That's correct. Good evening, Commission. I'll be doing the staff update. We have 5 items tonight. The first one is an update on the Burlingame Station pet improvement project. So I'm sure you've probably seen it if you've gone towards the community center or Washington Park, or if you take Caltrain. Construction started in January, and it's a quick project. We hope to be finished by April, and things are moving along well. The next project is one that was requested in the last commission meeting, and that's an update on the Lion Hope traffic calming project. So through an extensive public outreach process, we eventually were able to implement some striping and semi-permanent features throughout the entire neighborhood in 2021. And we did a quick post-construction survey to residents in the area in the following June. So there's been some time since then, almost a full 2 years. And we believe that traffic patterns have certainly adjusted, especially now that we've kind of exiting the pandemic. And we'll be preparing an update for the city council in the spring. So far, there's a lot of data we want to collect. Right now, we've completed the origin destination analysis, kind of showing, and that's used to give us an idea of how many vehicles are cutting through the neighborhood. And we have definitely seen an impact of all the improvements. So we're looking to kind of quantify that and draw some conclusions in the report. And what remains to be collected is manual volume counts and another resident survey. Should we answer questions with the hands raised, or
Yes, so if you are finished with that topic, we can take questions. This is an informational item, so there won't be full discussion, but of course, questions to Mr. Tsai. I think Commissioner Lee's hand was up first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I received an email and then went out to check myself numerous times that the students and people are having trouble crossing from one side of the street over to Caltrain, that all of the crosswalks are under construction and the corners are under construction, and people are having trouble, particularly students and people going to the park, and commuters are walking in the street, walking any which way, because there's no legal way, there's no path, there's no crosswalk, nothing for them to cross east to west, west to east, that makes any sense. So they're out there walking in the middle of the street, and we're in the middle of the school year. So I'm wondering if the city staff did have time to go over and actually send an engineer to go over and look at it and try to address some safe crossings to go east to west over there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question and the emails that you sent. We have gone out several times. So the crosswalk in front of the donut shop was the primary route, but we've had a lot of students kind of taking down the barriers and then ending up at the intersection of East Lane. And so we do have a kind of a new solution for the next phase of the project, because the next phase of the project will be demolishing the northeast corner with the large oak tree. So we're going to have a kind of a barricaded pedestrian pathway with a crosswalk. So that should address that problem.
And when will that be happening? Because like I went past today and it's bad out there, and we've got kids who just do whatever, but that's what kids do. It's to be predicted.
Yeah, we do have staff out there putting the barricades back after they get torn down. But this plan is already in place. So it's just a matter of the contractor getting the new delineators and new equipment they need to do that pathway that we have planned.
Okay, I hope that happens quickly before something else happens. Thank you.
Commissioner Martos?
Yeah, I have a question about the Lion Hope traffic calming. So when will the survey go out to the neighbors?
We're planning it in March,
Okay,
and we have the same survey that was given out in June 2021, and we're kind of reviewing the results of that to see if the questions were helpful for, or whether or not we need to include different questions. It's kind of what that time is built in for.
okay. And second question, are you aware of any emails that people have forwarded to engineering about concerns about some of the traffic mitigation that we put in place?
Yeah, so definitely over the, close to the past 2 years, we have received grouped complaints about certain areas. And that's also another complication for the survey, because some issues might require more specific outreach. For example, the traffic circle that was installed, I think there were complaints of donuts being performed, but those instances have kind of died down at the same time as well. But we still intend to look into that, and yeah, a few other emails as well.
Okay, yeah, very good. I live in the area and probably aware of that. There are some really good things that were done there, and there's some things that could be improved on. So I'm glad that the neighbors that live in this area are going to have another opportunity very soon to comment on the mitigations that were put in place. So I appreciate that very much, Mr. Sy.
Thank you, Commissioner Martos. Vice Chair Rebelos?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Sy, I think I want to help you clarify something. On the Lion Hope, you said that there's a noted impact because, as a result of the traffic calming pilot that's in place. So did you mean a positive impact or a negative impact? You just said impact.
That is correct. So it really depends how you look at it. So it's complicated. So there's definitely less cut through traffic going through, but then, that ends up changing other people's travel patterns. So, your traffic gets distributed a little differently. So some positives and some negatives is basically what I was trying to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lee, did you have another question? Okay, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, thank you, Chair. So I also, like Commissioner Martos, I live in the neighborhood. And I had a couple questions. First, what is the physical scope of the surveys when they go out? That was question one. Question two, will you include a questionnaire on the questionnaire that what changes or other improvements would the resident like to see, that like to leave them an opening to put in what they'd like to see? And would that include stop signs as like what else you would like to see? Thank you.
Sure. The survey that went out previously was SurveyMonkey survey. And we can consider sending out a mailer to inform people of the survey, or maybe if other means aren't as effective of getting the word out. And as far as, I think the next question was what questions are on the survey. That was kind of the point of emphasis I was talking about earlier, is that we want to take a closer look to see if those questions were specific enough. I'm not sure if there was an option to make alterations to improvements that were made. So that's something we might want to put in there, and perhaps leave a field for residents with their own suggestions.
That would be great. And then I, as a resident who's very involved, I never saw or received the Survey Monkey. I only heard about the meetings, word of mouth. So it'd be great if we could really do a great reach out to the community. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Sy, what are the other items that you're updating us on tonight? Was that?
Okay, we have our next update on the Carolyn Oak Grove traffic signal project. So that's been in process for a while now, and happy to report our consultant design team has reached 95% completion on the plan specs and engineers estimates. So we're on track to advertise in April, hoping to construct in the summer. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. Our next item is the Highland Garage utilization. This is just a kind of a progress update. Staff has been monitoring the gradual increase of the usage at the garage and been coordinating with Commissioner Martos. And we've surveyed the garage and other facilities in the area. I'm not sure if Commissioner Martos would want to add to that later. Looks like he
Through the chair. I
Yes.
think the plan is we'll try to get some data and then play with the data just to see what it looks like, and then present that at a future meeting. But that's kind of the goal after our little walk through evaluation through the parking surveys through the parking areas. So unfortunately, when we were looking at, there wasn't quite enough data, although the data was being inputted. So we're just going to wait for it to build up some, so we have some true numbers, good numbers.
Oh, great. Something meaningful then, and you can bring it back to us. Excellent. Anything else, Mr. Sy?
Yes, our last item was just an update on the California Drive bike facility project. We had advertised in January, and yesterday we opened bids. Good news is that we did have an apparent low bidder, slightly below the engineer's estimate, and staff is reviewing that bid. So hopefully that'll go to council soon, and we can start that project.
Yay. This report makes me feel like we're really accomplishing something. And I just because this is a relatively new thing, new part of our agenda, I love having this. It's positive feedback after we put a fair amount of thought and work and stress into thinking about things. And so to hear back on their progress is really rewarding. And you're doing a great job in presenting it very clearly and concisely. So I just want to thank you. It's really making our meetings, I think, in our job much more rewarding. Commissioner Lee, did you have a question?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. It all went so quickly. I wanted just to jump back to the Carolyn Oak Grove. Just wanted to see, because there was a lot of discussion when we were talking about it like 9 months ago, and we haven't had an update in any way since then. So I'm just wondering about like the coding of the traffic signals from when people are trying to cross. Are pedestrians being given a high priority there, since that's an extremely dangerous intersection and high student intersection? Or is it strictly to move the cars as quickly as possible? I guess my biggest thing is I want the students to be able to, let's say they cross from the football field to the train, they get across the train tracks, and then, oops, a train is coming and the gates go down, but they've already crossed the tracks. Are they going to be able to finish their route and cross California Drive without having to wait for the train to go by? I mean, I just want to be sure pedestrians are given a high priority there. That's a horrible intersection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That actually is more of a discussion item and discussion, and this is more just reports or just unidirectional sort of information. So we're allowed to ask questions, but can't really discuss that.
I mean, I could answer if you want me to.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you would like to, go ahead.
Yeah, so the question is surrounding, I guess, prioritizing different movements during a train preemption situation. In those cases, you know, the number one priority is clearing any vehicles that may have stopped over the tracks. That's done by giving, you know, the east-west movement a green light. And so as far as priorities go, that's number one. And number two, if the pedestrian has already cleared the railroad tracks, they are, you know, out of danger. So at which point I think it's standard and fair to, you know, allow vehicles east-west to proceed as opposed to allowing pedestrians to then cross another leg. That's how it's programmed, and that's likely how it will continue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Maybe I'll email you about it. Thank you.
Great. Okay. And any other items for us, Mr. Tsai?
That is it. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you for that report. And then we move on to, sorry, I lost my place. Item 7D, our police report from Sergeant Roberts. And I think you all will notice that Sergeant Roberts has kindly reformatted our traffic reports to sort of make it a little easier to read. And I tried to have him eliminate anything that I didn't think was like super crucial or salient and make it a little bit easier to pick up on injuries and locations and whether pedestrians and bikes were involved. Sergeant Roberts, would you like to?
Well, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Yes, excellent. All right, so yes, as stated, I've tried to reformat the list so that it's a lot more readable. And I think even after this list went out, there was one or two little minor tweaks that I can do to kind of help the information that's kept on here jump off the page for you guys to review and make better sense of all the information that's presented. So for the month of January, there were a total of 21 collisions populated on my report here. This involves, oh, here it comes. So there were a total of 12 collisions with a vehicle involved with another motor vehicle, 4 collisions with vehicle into parked motor vehicle, and then 2 collisions with fixed objects, and 3 were vehicle and pedestrian related collisions. 4 of the collisions out of these total occurred on private property. Of those, 2 were with another vehicle, 1 with a parked vehicle and 1 with a fixed object. Out of all 21 collisions, 2 involved a DUI, suspicion of DUI. 1 of them involved in a hit and run resulting in 1 injury, and ultimately one of those collisions involving DUI involved a hit and run resulting in injury, and that collision ultimately ended in an arrest for suspicion of DUI. Out of these collisions, the collision factors that sort of primarily jumped out as the most would be typical ones that we see. 4 of them were collision factor of an unsafe turning movement. There were at least 4 right-of-way violations that were collision factor, and then speed was a factor in 2. And then the remaining collisions were sort of just individual collision factors.
Thank you. Commissioners, I think what we can do is let's just take turns that each person will go once and ask any questions or clarification. If you do want to ask anything or point out anything, please raise your hands.
All right.
Commissioner Lee, I see your hand up.
It's always me, isn't it, Chair?
Hey,
Thank you. I wanted to call out the 3 pedestrian hits. One of them, it says that it was a hit and run felony. I just wanted to discuss that. Are any of these minors, children? And then the other is, I see one is at Ansel and Elk Grove, and then that is on our pedestrian bike improvement plan. I'm wondering if the high visibility crosswalk is there, and was the stop sign study ever done for that intersection? So it's just about the 3 pedestrian, and those are my questions about those 3. Thank you.
Okay, I am. Let me see if I can address the questions here. I think you'd asked about a pedestrian collision. You were concerned about if a juvenile was involved. Is that the Ansel Oak Grove?
All of them. Are any of them children?
So I'll have to look up each individually.
And then one that says it's a felony hit and run. That sounds pretty nasty.
So in any instance, just as a general, I'm trying to look up the collisions here and see who was involved.
I guess I'm just, how did this happen? How did this transpire? If you have that information.
Well, if you want to ask specific collisions, I can go through all 3. So the Ansel Oak Grove collision involved a vehicle approaching an intersection. So on Ansel approaching Oak Grove, there was a pedestrian, a worker that was standing in the street doing some work, and according to the collision report, the vehicle grazed the pedestrian that was partially in the street. That was not a juvenile involved. And then I'll bring up the El Camino 168. This one was a pedestrian crossing El Camino in the crosswalk at Palm. Vehicle failed to see the pedestrian. Sustained injury.
Can I ask?
That was that was a collision that resulted in an arrest for suspicion of DUI, and this occurred at in the evening hours, 17:52 hours, 5:52 p.m. and does not appear juvenile involved. And did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I just didn't see where Palm and El Camino intersected. So, but I found it. Sorry, Google Maps.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other pedestrian one. Make sure. Parked vehicle. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Forgive me here.
I think it was the hillside in Alvarado.
Yes, I highlighted the wrong one. Let me pull that up. Hillside in Alvarado. This one involved a vehicle making a left turn from Alvarado onto Hillside. A pedestrian was crossing Hillside Drive in the eastern crosswalk. The driver did not see the pedestrian. And this was a result, looks to me, minor injury, I believe.
And it was an elderly woman. From my knowledge of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't have, so this report is this one complete? Let me make sure here. Yeah, so I think no juveniles were involved in this one.
That's good. Chair, will we be adding these to the heat map? Even though we don't have Sergeant Perna anymore?
Well, we'll have to see if Sergeant Roberts has access to Sergeant Perna's heat map and see if that can be done, you know, that and if we can build on that. So I'll discuss that with him.
Oh, that would be great. And then I guess for Mr. Wong, do you know if the improvements that are on the bike ped plan for Ansel and Oak Grove, have they been done yet? And has the stop sign study been done? Is that the one that we did already? That intersection?
Through the chair, Ansel and Oak Grove is now an always stop. Yes, I believe that's just making sure.
Yeah, I think that was the one we put the stop sign in. Did it get the high visibility crosswalk too?
I believe it has. It's been a while, so that's the reason.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
We'll check and we'll get back to you folks.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you. Commissioner Rebelos, sorry, Vice Chair Rebelos, you have your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I had it up. I don't have anything. Sorry.
Okay. Most of my questions actually were very similar to Commissioner Lee's, you know, the pedestrian injuries. I'm a little bit disturbed about the Hillside Alvarado one because that is a crosswalk that the kids that go to Hoover use. And I mean, to me, it's extremely easy, good visibility. And I'm a little bit worried. I don't understand how that happened. Was it the crosswalk that goes across Hillside?
Referring back to the report here. So a vehicle traveling south on Alvarado was turning left onto eastbound Hillside Drive.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That is a very hard to miss, broad, big crosswalk with those big yellow, what are they called again? The little warts that they put to divide cars in the road, something bumps.
Dots through the chair. Dots.
Yes.
Dots.
Yeah. So that's a little concerning. That is a school used heavily by school children.
Mhm.
That's why I wanted to clarify. Thank you. Mr. Wong has his hand up.
Just want to clarify two things. Oak Grove, Ansel, yes, they are the two crosswalks. There are high visibility. And I wanted to also point out that at Alvarado Hillside, that is back when we did Hoover. That is down. It's a big intersection, but it's an always stop as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Martos.
Yeah, Sergeant Roberts, can you tell me about the accident at El Camino and Floribunda?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now Floribunda. Okay, I have this one up. This was a vehicle. This is a person, two vehicles on El Camino, one driving, looks like northbound, one driving southbound. One of them made a turn against the no left turn sign and caused a collision.
That's why we put the sign there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's always
thank
left turns. They're so bad.
It was probably the southbound driver that turned left, I'll bet.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. That's why it's there.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I did want to ask maybe about the sorry, the Howard and Primrose, where there were 2 minor injuries. It was it sounds like 2 motor vehicles, but 2 minor injuries. So that sort of jumped out at me.
129. Regarding the injuries, somebody had asked a question earlier. I wanted to clarify the felony hit and run situation. So in a vehicle collision, when it's a hit and run, if there are no injuries, it is a misdemeanor to flee the scene of a collision. If there's any injury at all, including complaint of pain, it's a felony hit and run. So it could be complaint of pain up through a fatality, and it's still a felony hit and run. So I just wanted to clarify on that.
So was the driver cited with a moving violation?
In that particular one, I believe an arrest was made for suspicion of DUI.
Okay, and then for going back to the Howard and Primrose,
Correct.
actually with the 2, so actually there were 3 accidents on Howard. One involving 2 minor injuries, one involving Howard and Primrose, 2 minor injuries, and one at Howard and, well, actually 2 at Howard and Primrose, both with minor injuries, and one it says at Howard. So I just, and I guess it looks like Howard and Lorton. So that sort of surprised me.
Okay, so I'm trying to correlate with the proper case number here. So the Howard Primrose with 2 minor injuries. This was This was 2 vehicles traveling westbound on Howard. The first vehicle came to a stop at Primrose, and the vehicle behind rear-ended the vehicle in front.
Okay.
Occupants of the vehicles had complaint of pain, and that was the extent of that one. And then the other Howard Primrose was this one was a vehicle traveling north on Primrose, stopped at this intersection at Howard. That vehicle proceeded into the intersection. A vehicle traveling west on Howard that had also stopped but did not have right of way continued, and they collided. So it was a right of way issue.
Okay.
And that one was also complaint of pain issue. And then finally, 78. This was also a rear end collision, it looks like. Let's see. Yeah, this was also a hit and run. I mean, excuse me, rear end collision. Rear end collision, yes.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Just wondered about that. Commissioner Martos, your hand is up.
The one on 1166 Howard says it's a hit and run. Was that the one you just said was a rear end?
So it was originally called in as a hit and run. There was kind of an extensive investigation done to. There's a lot more after the collision. There was some interaction between both parties that caused a lot more investigation to be done into that incident. But the heart of the collision was at face value, it was a minor rear end collision.
Not a good month for Burlingame drivers or pedestrians. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Sergeant Roberts. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the reformat. It's really, I love it.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let's move on then to item 7E, Teaspoon Chair, Commissioners Communications. I I actually had a communication, Michael. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. I knew Weibach spoke to me and this evening at the El Camino tree meeting. And this is actually, I was going to ask Sergeant Roberts about this because it's timely. He was saying that he walks every day, lives off of Oak Grove. He walks with his little dog every day, and he's in his 80s. And he said that at the new stop sign that we were so happy about on Oak Grove and why am I not where this just came up this evening, Oak Grove and Ansel, that he said people do not stop at that stop sign, that it's not even like a California rolling stop. It's like they literally intentionally just go right through it. I thought I would bring that up since there was actually an incident at that spot, even though it was a work person and a workman. And I would ask if maybe we could keep an eye on that intersection and do some enforcement there. Especially because it's right down, it's between the high school. It's a major thoroughfare for kids to walk, and also, you know, obviously McKinley's right there. So that was my one communication.
Absolutely. So, yeah, like I said, the collision that was reported there was not a pedestrian trying to cross the street or anything like that. But I understand the concern that was presented to you, and I've not received any direct information that that was a problem, but I will certainly have our traffic officer look into it in the near term and see what we can come up with as far as enforcement and education for that newer stop sign. Do we know when did that stop sign go in?
It was a while ago, wasn't it, Mr.
Was it a while ago?
Do you remember?
Okay.
Was it 8
Yeah,
months?
I couldn't tell you exactly when, but it's been a while.
Okay, so it may not be so much an education issue as just somebody.
Willful misconduct.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll certainly. I would certainly. I mean, assuming this is okay to do as a public forum, I would encourage anyone who has issues with intersections and they perceive an ongoing issue to certainly contact the police department and with various formats that we have to receive complaints about traffic issues, and we will put them in our queue to address in whatever manner needs that is warranted by the complaint itself. And yeah, be happy to do that.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Martos.
Yeah, a couple things. An email that was sent to Vice Mayor Colson, I believe was copied to all the commission about speeding, reckless driving on Occidental. And I think it was even posted on Nextdoor, the video of the hit and run there. We did, there was, I think then Councilwoman Colson last year when I was chair forwarded a concern from a resident on Occidental as well about speeding, and I thought there was some police enforcement out there, and but I know this might be an area that we need to look into in the future if we can do some traffic mitigation there. Sergeant, do you have any insight on I don't want to say regular occurrence, but multiple occurrences in the last several years in that Occidental area? Because I'm aware of 2 now.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an incredible amount of issues in that area. Obviously, the incident that occurred recently did not go unnoticed.
Yeah,
and that is at the top of our list for enforcement to happen. So that is an area that we're looking at. Both, I have officers going out there now, daily, and then also looking into other methods that we can do to help educate and enforce speed and other issues in that particular area in the near term. That being said, if anybody, not just this incident, but as I was saying earlier, if anybody has issues specifically that they want to present, if they call in problem spots that they want enforced and whatnot, it does help tremendously if there it happens to be happening at a particular time of day or particular locations. That helps us direct our resources to enforce, rather than having an officer sitting 2 blocks away from where it's really happening. So yeah, having specific locations and or timeframes, days of the week, things like that really help us do a more effective job with the resources that we have to conduct enforcement and education to the public.
Chair, I have 2 more things, but I don't know if Mr. Wong or
Oh, Mr. Wong, did you want to comment?
anybody else wanted to comment on this one item, but I have 2 other separate items as well.
Yeah, I wanted to comment, but Mr. Wong, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee. Maybe mine will address yours, but.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I was thinking that, along with the heat map, perhaps, Chair, going back to what you were talking about, like, and Mr. Martos, about enforcement, if we could have started another report that we would get monthly on, like, are we issuing speeding tickets? If so, where? Or running the stop sign? Like, are we having tickets being issued? Because like you said, we had 3 pedestrians hit last month, horrible collision a couple months ago. Perhaps, just to make sure we're doing a lot of enforcement with speeding, not just DUI, but I mean speeding and stop sign, like at Ansel, or just to get a report on police activity as far as traffic citations. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Wong?
Sure, through the chair. I just want to indicate one of the grant projects that we were recently awarded is to address Occidental Ralston, as well as we're going to try to expand some of that because we were a little, and again, leaving it a little loose, that it will include some traffic calming. And we're hoping to extend it along Occidental to just help address what's happening out there. So just kind of give you a quick update, not to get into the meat of it or anything.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Martos, point number 2, communication number 2.
We are trying to, Mr. Wong and I are trying to arrange a meeting with Hoover School, the president of the PTA, and I believe the principal up there. They have some concerns, so we're exchanging emails and trying to nail down a date. So that'll be coming up fairly soon. But the one thing that I really wanted to share was Mr. Wong, I really enjoyed our walk downtown Burlingame, lunchtime on a Friday, to look at all the parking lots and the parking. And it's a popular downtown again. We went through the parking garage, and I'll get to the numbers there, but we looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parking lots, and I counted 1 empty space with the exception of Lot O, which is right by the train station, which had some open space once you go past further down, north of that lot, way north of that lot. There was open space, but at 12:30 and up till 1 o'clock, we walked all those lots in the downtown area, and everything was full. Now, the parking garage had 110 empty spaces, which means that there were 258 spaces occupied in that parking garage. And so that was really good to see. I'm trying to think how many spaces we took away when we built the garage. And, we debated a lot whether we go 3 levels, 4 levels, 5 levels. It appears to me that having 5 levels was the right decision, as 258 spaces were full and 110 were still empty, but nothing was empty on the street lots. The other thing that was really interesting when I was over there with Mr. Wong was the computers that were monitoring the ins and outs of the lot, of the parking garage, sorry. And the data that was being recorded is very interesting. You can see the trends of times when there's a lot of occupancy and times when there's not so much occupancy. So it's a lot of good information there, and I was happy to see that a lot of people were really utilizing that garage when it was needed, especially on Friday afternoon lunchtime. So that was a good walking study that we did, Mr. Wong. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. And did you have a third communication? Did you say there was a third thing?
That was it. That was Hoover.
Oh, Hoover. Okay.
Yep, Hoover, Occidental, and the parking garage.
Okay.
I mean, I could keep talking, but I think I
Well, I'm
want to
just
relinquish the floor to somebody
thinking,
else.
Commissioner Martos, you may be start a whole bunch of new subcommittees.
Let me lower my
foresee
hand.
that.
I'm done. No, lowering my hand, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, that's good. All right. Any other communications? I think that was it, right? Oh, Commissioner Lee?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So yes, I had another email from my neighbor up the block, Samantha Stahl, who has again requested the city to look at adding 10 feet more of red paint in front of the rec center so that they can open up the crosswalk so the kids don't have to step off the curb and go step around the car to go see the cars. So she's requested that. She mentioned that the stop sign is really high there at Anita and Burlingame Avenue. And then also requested stop lines to be 4 feet in front of the high visibility crosswalks. And since she sent it to me, I've received, I think 4 or 5 other neighbors are requesting the same improvements. So I believe the staff is going to be looking into, Mr. Wong, you could tell me how that's going, looking into adding about 10 more feet of red paint in front of the rec center, and then adding stop lines and looking at the height of the stop sign. It's exceptionally high. I mean, it has to be a minimum of 7 feet, but I would guess it's like at 14 or 12. It's really high. Like, it's outside of the driver's normal range of vision to look for a stop sign on a street. So I've had communication, I think 5 emails this month about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So then it looks like that is it. We'll close this item and move to actually with committee reports. We kind of discussed some of this as we went through nominate or, deciding which subcommittees to keep and which to eliminate. So first I'll take public comment related to any committee reports. I think it's just us 9. So unless there's an email, Ms. Brewer.
I do not see any emails.
Thank you. Then let's move first to the new, soon to be newly named Burlingame Avenue safety. Did you guys have a report or anything to bring to our attention to this month? Okay.
No.
That's okay. The second is BPAC, Community BPAC Advisory Committee, and anything to report there?
Yeah, I did attend the BPAC meeting, and they are working on having like an event at the rec center to get community involvement. They have a couple new members who are willing to help work on that. And then they're talking about having maybe a grand opening of the new bicycle lane that goes from Broadway to Oak Grove, like have a grand opening. For that, I think the work starts April-ish, so I have no idea when it'll be done, but they're talking about that.
Nice. Okay, thank you. Then you already kind of heard our update about the BIS safety audit, where we are right now, what we're working on, what we hope to accomplish. Commissioner Eng, did you want to add anything?
No, I think everyone's pretty much caught up at this point, so.
I agree. Okay, great. And then we just disbanded the Mercy School traffic calming. So Mr. Wong kind of filled us in on that. So I think we can move off over that. Anything on the Highway 101 connectivity subcommittee that you guys have worked on in the past month? Anything to report?
No, and it doesn't, I have a question about that though. If we're going to be, I don't know if we have anyone from the city attorney's office still on, and maybe it's not. But
no, left,
if we're
but-
going to be issuing a report at the end of 6 months, do we need to do a monthly report?
I think
necessarily?
it's helpful just for your fellow commissioners. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's required, but it is helpful, you know, because you can sort of let us know what you're working on. And some of us might have ideas. This is, you know, because this is a public forum, we can sort of chime in or agree or bring other points you might not have thought of, other aspects to your attention, whereas we cannot do that in private because of the Brown Act. So I think it's nice to hear an update, and you know, sometimes it might trigger something in another person's mind, or they can give you some information that might be helpful to your subcommittee, if that makes sense. So it's not required, and certainly if nothing's really happening or you're not ready to talk about it, you can just say, you know, we're going to pass this
It
month.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
Yeah. So we didn't convene last month because I wanted to, and I think Adrian was in agreement. I wanted to see what was going to come of this meeting. So
Sure. No
we'll
problem.
probably have something for the next meeting.
Okay. All right, then we'll move to Mr. Wong. Can you fill us in on future agenda items for our next meetings?
You know, the one that's coming up, hopefully we get a little bit more, as I mentioned, Murchison Davis Truesdale. For some of the grant projects, what we're hoping is we give you you and the interested community members a preview. Then we go out to the public, and then we return back to the Traffic Safety Parking Commission for feedback. So the initial one is just so we hit you guys start to absorb it, and then move on. Then later on is when we get more feedback. You can provide feedback at that initial meeting, but we're looking for the feedback at a subsequent meeting. That's one. God, off this thinking what else we have. That's the big one that we wanted to have on this month. I think we're just I'll get back to you. The 2023 annual resurfacing project. We had submitted a list of the potential streets to the community BPAC, and my colleagues have gotten back to me, and we'll just kind of go over that, but just kind of address like what's happening where, and kind of back down why we could do something and why we weren't able to do something. So those are a couple of things that we're floating by, and we'll see what else pops up. I mean, again, some of the items tonight came up from the director. We need to clear the deck on some, so we may have some additional items, but we're looking at those from staff at least.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could bring BIS to the group?
I will check with Mr. Sy, you know, again.
Well, it depends on the school district, I think.
Exactly.
Okay, we can try. It would be nice. Commissioner Eng and I would love to wrap this up with a bow. Okay, great. Thank you. Then I think that's it. So we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for participating, and I really look forward to seeing your faces in person in City Hall. It's going to be a little tough because there won't be snacking and tea and little, you know, our dogs won't be at our feet, but we'll be back to the real thing. And I look forward to seeing you all there at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and we'll give you a reminder through the chair. Sorry, we'll give you a reminder to show up a little early so we can make sure everyone's on. But we'll send out a reminder. Okay,
it's going to feel like when you're on a plane, you get your own personal entertainment device in front of you on the seat. I'm going to Netflix stream something instead of the meeting.
And one word of warning: do not touch the mics. The city group is pretty clear. Do not touch the mics because it's pretty sensitive. So just we'll remind you, but that was something that came through in some of our training.
Okay.
Because I wanted to move that thing. So
awesome.
All right.
Okay.
So Chair, you know I won't be there next month, right?
No, you had told me, and then thanks for the reminder. I appreciate it. We'll try to carry on. We can put a little prop up on your seat, you know, a little cutout.
A little crosswalk there or something.
Okay, everyone, take care of yourself. Have a wonderful